It is a joy to be here with you. I'm Caroline Hyde of Bloomberg Television, joined with none other than Steve Squeri, of course, Chairman, CEO of American Express, a man who we've just been discussing has New York in his bones, in his blood, through and through. It is a pleasure to speak with you, Steve. And as we look about and talk about the year ahead, as we think about the optimism we're filled with vaccines, with desire to go and spend the money that we've saved up, but then on the flip side, the worries about the variants and the rollout of the vaccine, how are you feeling? How are you working from home? How are your employees?
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Look, 2021, we're looking at as a transition year. I think it's a transition year for the world, for the United States, and for our company. When you look at what's going on in the world with COVID, I think everybody is really focused on ensuring that we have vaccine distribution, vaccine supply, and that we get the efficacy of the vaccine so that people can get back to their normal lives, whether that be traveling, whether that just be going out to dinner, whether that be opening up your small business. I think when we look at the United States, we even have another transition as we have a transition to the Biden administration. And, our hope here is that, we can get rid of the political rancor, that we can get into a situation where both parties can work together for the good of the country to move it forward, enhance our relations with our allies and with our trading partners around the world. At American Express, the first thing we're focused on is our colleagues. And, we took 64,000 colleagues virtual back in April. I just announced the other day that if you want to work from home, you can still work from home till Labor Day, September 6th, for those outside the United States. Because what's paramount for us is to make sure our colleagues are safe, because if your colleagues are safe and well, they'll take care of your customers are well, they'll take care of your shareholders. But what we're really focused in on in 2021 is really this transition. We look at the pandemic as sort of a 2-year pause on our growth story. We had a great growth story before the pandemic, 10 straight quarters of revenue growth, of high single-digit revenue growth, high double-digit EPS growth. And so as we think about 2021, we're really focused on investing in more card member acquisition, more value for our card members and small businesses, signing more locations and building more and more capabilities, because we really want to enter 2022 and get back to where we were and what we planned on for 2020 before the world just went sort of haywire in March.
So much to dig in there with you. First and foremost, the new administration upon us. You are one of the biggest employers in New York at the moment. How do you feel that the state and the city is unrolling the vaccine? Are you having to help? How are you feeling about getting those shots in your employees' arms?
Yeah, so look, I think it's been a bit of a challenge, whether you're in New Jersey, whether you're in New York. But remember, we're across the entire United States. And so, at the beginning, I think there were some challenges with distribution. And I think as they start to work distribution out, we now have some challenges with supply. I think, logistics is always tough. I think that over time, hopefully by the March timeframe, if not the end of February, we'll have more supply, we'll have the distribution down, and we'll get our employees and everybody else vaccinated. I think the trick is that not to rush. And I'm not rushing people back into the office. As far as our own employees, we're willing to help, and we're willing to help the government, the city, the local states, the states, what have you, if in fact we can help from a distribution perspective. We haven't been asked yet, but if we do, look, we do flu vaccinations for our employees. If in fact we can help and help our employees get vaccinated, we're certainly willing to do that if and when we're asked.
Of course, Steve, this has been primarily a health crisis, but it's also been an economic crisis, and one that the administration is trying to get its hands around on both parts of that. We're actually just been polling our audience, asking about what the consumer, what they want to do when, as 2021 unfolds, how they feel. And it was interesting, actually, more than half of them wanted to save money at the moment. 25% want to pay down debt. The others want to make major purchases. But what's so crucial with the conversation with you is you have got the bird's eye perspective of the consumer right now. What are they telling you? An Amex user, an Amex holder, are they desiring to spend? Are they already booking holidays?
Yeah, so, what we're seeing is a couple things. Number one, our customer base tends to be high credit worthy, high net worth individuals. And at the beginning of the pandemic, they were having some struggles from a financial perspective as well. What a lot of people don't realize is we lend money just like anybody else lends money, and we put them into some financial assistance programs, and we got them through their problems. What we then saw was a shift in spending. Consumers by definition consume. And if they weren't consuming travel, they weren't consuming dining, they started to consume, and we see them consuming more and more online. So we call it non-T&E spending. So anything that's not travel related. And we look back at the last couple of quarters, we had growth over 2019 in our non-T&E categories. So we see consumers spending online. Our holiday spending was up almost 11%. Our online consumer spending was up about 40%. Our expectation is that trend is here to stay, and that will continue. But what we're hearing from our consumers is they are desperate to get back in travel. They are desperate to get back and go out to dine. We're seeing a 60% increase. 60% of the people that actually had booked vacations in 2020 have rebooked for 2021. More the June, July, August timeframe. But I think we're going to see, once you have the perception of herd immunity, the efficacy of these vaccines have been proven out, you will see a rush to travel. We see a lot of people, and what we're hearing from our customers are they want to get back out and they want to travel.
What's so amazing, Steve, so terrifying in a way, but so good on the data is that, I mean, I looked at my Amex online in my app, and it's pushing me, to buy wine, to buy stuff for my kids, but clever creative things. I mean, it really taps into where I'm at right now. I mean, whether I want to pay for some more content on my television as well. You had to innovate, though. You had to understand who your consumer was and then offer them new things rather than the hotel that I might one day be able to stay at again. How have you used digital to be able to respond to this crisis? Have you had to lean on it more?
Yeah, we've definitely done digital a lot more. You just referenced the app. I mean, one of the things that we did, and the team was fantastic at pivoting very, very quickly. We realized early on that some of the value proposition components were challenged during these times. Obviously, fine dining and hotel stays and things like that. And the team really pivoted and came up with credits for cellular service or streaming services. And the reality is we pushed more card members to our card that way. You saw offers that were targeted to you as an individual that we were able to give you through the app. All of that is done digitally. So we looked at more digital spending. We looked at more digital offers through the app. And what we saw as a result of that is the percent of our online or digital spending went way up. As I mentioned, 40% during the holiday. And that's going to be here to stay. So one of the positive things of the pandemic is I think it pushed digital maybe 3 to 5 years forward and pushed our thinking and pushed our capabilities faster and further than we probably would have gotten to without the pandemic.
What was interesting is actually during the pandemic, the people coming on, you're adding gold and platinum card holders to your ranks at the same sort of pace as you were pre. Where are they coming from? Are they new to premium products? Are you gaining market share?
Yeah, so what happened was, if you go back to last year, we had a little bit of a slowdown in the second quarter. But when we got to the fourth quarter of last year, we added platinum cards and gold cards at the same rate that we did in the fourth quarter of 2019. There's a lot of great investment opportunities out there. There are a lot of people that go through blogs and so forth and look at the value of our product, and they saw how we were pivoting the product. And so when you look at our value propositions overall, not only will they have the traditional travel components to it, but now we've added in other components, as I said, wireless and streaming. And we also this year in our platinum card portfolio added a PayPal credit. So, as a consumer, you embed your American Express Platinum card into PayPal wallet, you get a $30 credit per month for the next 6 months. And we think that's going to add a tremendous amount of value as well. And there's a lot of savvy consumers out there that are looking for good value, good service, from a company like ours.
And savvy businesses as well. And you provide facilities to small and medium-sized enterprises. That's a big focus of the Biden administration, particularly businesses led by women or minorities. How are you seeing SME demands on you right now?
Yeah, well, look, I think the first thing you have to realize is that small businesses are a lifeline of this country. And small businesses through this pandemic got hurt very, very badly. Now, we have a wide range of small businesses. They run from restaurateurs that accept our card, that use our card for purchasing, to small retail. But you also have to think about electricians and doctors and lawyers and plumbers and so forth. These are all small businesses as well. And so small businesses really needed our help, which is why, not only in the United States, but globally, which is why we had our small business shopping campaign on a global basis last year, 18 countries, 12 weeks. We spent over $200 million. You will see us this year continue to push the demand for small business spending. We're going to take that through the rest of the year, whether it be dining, whether it be shopping, using our assets. So many restaurants with limited capacity have now used Resi, which is our restaurant reservation system, because you need to manage it a lot better. And Resi does a fantastic job of doing that. And so we will see us out there with more offers, more business-to-business spending. And we're out there to support our small businesses and continue to acquire more small business cards and more small business merchants.
Steve, you mentioned it, the global part of your business as well. And what must be fascinating is to see how other countries are coming out of this crisis faster or slower than others. And unfortunately, I'm sat here in London where lockdown is disastrous right now. But also, you're in China. How is business in China? What are you learning there? And also, how optimistic are you about it with the Biden administration perhaps not looking too lovingly towards the country?
Yeah. So look, we've gone through. China's been a labor of love for a long time for a lot of us. I've been here for 35 years. We've been talking about China for the last 20 years or so. We were fortunate in June of last year to get our clearing and settlement license. And last year we added millions and millions of merchant locations for local Chinese card members to use, and for just traveling American Express card members to use. Not that there are a lot of travelers right now. But business looks good, because what we've done is we've signed up 16 banks to issue American Express cards, which is about 90% of the market. We've got 17 merchant acquirers, which are adding millions and millions of locations. And we have deals with the top 3 mobile providers, WeChat and Alipay, where we have parity acceptance. So we think China is really going to be a good growth opportunity for us, not only in the market, but as our Chinese card members leave the market. As far as the administration goes, look, there was a lot of rancor with the Trump administration as well. And one might say, with the name American in your name, it may not be the best brand to have. But look, what we have found is we've worked very closely with the Chinese, with the PBOC. We have a great relationship with our JV partner, Lian. And the brand does resonate very well within China. So we're hoping that cooler heads prevail, that we do get to a sort of a detente basically with China, and we're able to continue our growth.
Let's talk a little bit more about the political side, what the Biden administration is doing, and not so much just about China, but in general right now. We've spoken about this has been a health crisis and an economic crisis. It's also been a social crisis, not just in America, but for many, the year 2020 and beyond. And then at the beginning of 2021, quite clearly became a political crisis in the United States and the events of January the 6th. How is your relationship with politics as a business now, as a corporate? How are you looking at the funding of it, to be honest?
Yeah. So let me answer both the social side and the political side here, because it was a year like no other. I think we can all admit that. And I think it all started, social justice came into our purview back in the June timeframe. When I started here 35 years ago, companies didn't stake out a position relative either politically or socially. I think employees look for their company to stake out a position. Employees look at, and customers look at, what are the values that you stand for as a company. And so, with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, we felt we needed to do something. And it's not only make a statement, but actually take action. And so, we looked inside. We looked inside our own company and our own biases, both conscious and unconscious. And we created an office of diversity, inclusion, and business engagement, where we really looked at our brand, our culture, our colleagues, our community involvement, our business relationships, and our customers. And were we being welcoming? Are we a brand? Are we an organization that welcomes everybody? Is it an organization where everyone can be their best within the organization. And that's what we're striving for. And we've committed to over $1 billion over the next 4 years against all of these initiatives. And it's all about values. And so when you fast forward that to what happened on January 6th and the political environment and donation, we want to align our political contributions, which are all employee funded. Our political action committee is all employee funded, with those people that represent our values. And our values are social, and our values are around good judgment. And so for those that we've decided not to fund going forward, we believe they didn't exercise good judgment.
You spoke so passionately there about the focus on your employees and how you represent also what you need to represent with internally, but also externally, your stakeholders who are the consumer. What have you learned about yourself since that June moment, since social justice became to the forefront, and since we have this ongoing discussion about inequality? And of course, you're representing a business that does help those with more cash to splash than others. How do you feel about that? I know you're a man who's got not one, not two, but 4 daughters, and I'm sure of different age spans. And we know the next generation just think about this in a different way, in a more focused way, in a more progressive way as well.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my office right now. I'm looking out the window and I'm looking at Ellis Island. And both my grandparents came in from Ellis Island. And they were subject of bias and discrimination. And I think it was an awakening. It was an awakening for me that I had a platform and I had an ability to make a difference. And I can make a difference in this company. And I think it's something that would have made my grandparents proud because, when they came to this country as immigrants, it was tough. And, when I think about here we have Americans who are not immigrants, but who, are in this country and are being treated totally unfairly. And I think, it was awakening, and it was an opportunity for me to stand up to the organization and say, we will not tolerate bias, either conscious or unconscious bias. And it's important that we have that awareness. And it's important that we educate you, and it's important that we then engage on this topic. And so it is one that really hits at home for me, and it's one that, sort of went back to my own heritage.
Well said. And I know you're a man who puts your money where your mouth is, your time where your mouth is, and you're still working with schools in Queens and the like. So one that, we thank you for your work in that respect. Let's talk about sort of, you've almost had to disrupt yourself inside the way that we all look at the business, but also the disruption in 2020 in that cause. We talk about the focus on fintech that you've had. And I know you made acquisitions. You talk about Resi, you made acquisitions with Cabbage as well. We've actually got a question from the audience right now, just talking about, are you concerned at all about the disruption, or do you think this is good for finance as a whole, with some of the new startups coming on board and the way in which sort of it's being more, we look at what's happening in the market right now, people doubling down on retail stocks, retail investors being able to buy the most shorted. Is this democratization? Do you feel that fintech brings that?
Well, look, fintech, we welcome fintech, and I'll explain why we welcome fintech. I think for us, for fintech, it's an opportunity for partnership. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity for acquisitions for us. And it's also an opportunity to be challenged. And when you're challenged, it brings your best out. And so if you look at how we've gone across this continuum here, we have a great partnership with PayPal, where you can transfer money between your American Express card and your Venmo account. You can use Pay with Points. They acquire merchants for us. Same thing we have a partnership with Square and Stripe, and they bring merchants on board for us. And that's really good. Cabbage, and our acquisition of Cabbage, was an outstanding opportunity for us to put a digital platform in a faster way in front of our SME base. And we're really excited about that. We also acquired AcomPay, which really does more B2B spending for us. And then you look and you have others that are competing from an issuing side and competing from a lending side. And I think it challenges you. It challenges you to be more agile. It challenges you to be, your very best. And so we welcome the challenge, because with challenge, it brings opportunity and partnership opportunities as well. So I think we've become a better company because of the challenges that are out there.
And I know you've got your eye on, some of the competition, and interesting businesses are being grown from a startup perspective, because you've got Amex Ventures. Are you looking, I've sort of got to ask, before we were all completely focused on GameStop, we were kind of focused on Bitcoin as well. Are you guys looking at crypto? I know some of these startups are offering ways in which you can, lend, borrow, get cash out in the machine, and also buy crypto. Is it something that you're interested in?
Yeah, look, we look at crypto. We've got investments in a few companies within crypto. We look at the underlying technology. I think do I see it as part of my value proposition in the short term? No. Do I see it as am I going to put my balance sheet in it? No. You've seen some headlines around that, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's worth studying. Underlying technology is very interesting. And so, you never say never, but right now we're sort of investing and watching.
We've got so many audience questions coming in. I'm great that you're stirring such a call to action from the audience. We've got one asking you about your plans for expansion in the emerging markets. We talked about China. You're focusing there. How about the rest of the world? Talk to us about your global operations.
Yeah, so our model is a little bit different than anybody else's model, as we are an issuer, a network, and an acquirer. So you can think about us as we're part Visa, we're part JP Morgan, and we're part Fiserv. I mean, we're all of those things in one. And when you're like that, what you really need to do is to pick out and stake out where you're gonna play. And so our strategy globally is we've got some strategic markets that we invest very heavily in. We have other markets that we're aggressive in, but not overly aggressive, and others that where we really just need acceptance. And so China was a big push for us. India we're still very involved in. Brazil we're very involved in as well. Right now, not so much in Africa, as it really doesn't fit at this particular point in time from an issuing perspective, but it does fit from an acquiring perspective because our card members go there and they really need to spend. But again, we're always watching, watching how things emerge and how the market winds up playing out.
I'm looking now, with just a minute left on the clock, and thinking about when we hopefully sit here again this time next year, what you think 2021 will have taught you, how you think inherently you're an optimist and we're going to come out and be holidaying and in a different place, or how will we be marked? How will you be marked?
Well, I just told 64,000 people that 2021 was our transition year in the company, and that we are going to be back to where we were supposed to be in 2020. So, yeah, you can call me an optimist, but I have a lot of confidence in our ability to get the vaccine eventually distributed, even though there's some fits and starts for the supply to get there. And I think there's just a pent-up demand for people to get back to their normal lives. And so I think, as we think about this, what you've learned through this entire process is that you need to be visible as well, and I'll continue to be visible to my employees. You need to be decisive, and you need to make decisions, because this pandemic has taught us there's so many changing things, and you need to listen. And ultimately, you need to make sure you're getting the right input, taking that input in, and then, in fact, maybe even revisiting that decision that you made early on in the pandemic, probably in the morning.